And as they say, the show goes on. Welcome you guys to the Fourfold Formula mini-series, and tonight we're doing episode 6. We have Sylvia Plant, Sylvie. We have a Sylvia in the book, or Sophia, and then a Sylvie, and then, I get so confused. What are we going to talk about? We have Sylvie in the house, and then Nini is hopefully going to join us. He has an event going on today, so if he can pop in, he's certainly going to pop in. We've been doing these mini-series, and let me just tell you why. Hey, listen. If you have not heard, the Fourfold Formula book came out a couple of weeks ago. 30 authors came together. 7 media partners came together. James Redfield, who wrote the Celestine Prophecy, sold 23 million copies. He came along with us and wrote the foreword. So you really have 40 people who wrote stories. There are 44 stories in this book. So super special stories from their personal stories, from their heart, spirit, mind, and body in an awesome compilation book. Seriously, you guys, I got a couple of specials that I'm going to run for you, so you need to stay tuned. We're only begging you to stay with us for 28 minutes, and you're going to have some fun. And if you have any questions, make sure you bring them into the house because we'll be able to see them. If not, we'll come back and answer them right after the show. Nini decided to join us. He brought some lemon meringue pie, I'm sure. Let's bring him in. He's like, girl, I didn't bring you any lemon meringue pie. Hi.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, how Nini. Are you guys? Nini, that color looks really good on you.
Thank you, thank you.
Are you stressed out today from a bad day?
Something like that.
Can I help calm you down? Can you enjoy this? Are you?
No. I'm trying to get my ear thing to work, but it's not.
You want to try to take it off and see, or you need to keep it quiet because of your location? Do you need to?
Yeah. Hold on one second. Let me try again.
Okay. All right. What do we got here? We have 2 authors, and they actually know each other, which is really cool about this compilation book, is that we had a lot of referrals. So if somebody decided they wanted to play along with us, they then might have known a friend from another country, or they might have actually had a daughter. We had a mother-daughter team. We had a father-son team. And so that was really important. So these 2 actually know each other. And yet their stories are very different. So Nini's going to talk to us about kind of the coming to America topic. Coming to America. And Sylvie is coming to us from Montreal, and she has kind of a good old corporate America. I'll label it as that story. So Nini?
Yes.
Did you get me? Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. I couldn't get the ear thing to work, so I just stay like this.
Oh, yeah. Just looking and sounding good tonight, buddy. Looking and sounding good. So you're coming to America story. What made you decide to write about that story, that subject?
It all stemmed from, the current immigration issues going on in this country, and I just felt that, it was a story that had to be told. And this immigration story has been going on for decades in this country, and it just seems like every year it takes a different twist and turn. And so I felt like, that story has to be told, because many a times people just don't understand that whole process and, what goes into it. And so, I felt like it was a story that had to be told.
Yes, and you're absolutely right, because if we're not exposed to the story or exposed to it, it's the same thing as the other stories in the book. If somebody hasn't had a divorce, or if somebody hasn't lost someone, it's very similar to the other, what I say to the other authors is, if we don't know what we don't know. And you really did shine a light and let us in on your culture, right? You shared so many names, literal names in your story, and your gratitude came through to your elders. It really did. And sharing with us your thoughts on immigration. And I never really thought, I didn't really know until you shared your story about a lot of things you shared.
Yeah, that's what I find, many times, that a lot of people are just oblivious to some of the real issues and real stories out there. And so,
Yeah.
any opportunity to tell that story, we make it happen.
If you look back right now over, because you've been in the US for a while, what do you think has been the toughest part, or a couple of the toughest things of being, replanted into this country?
I mean, there are different issues for different times. So for me, I will say that issues like um, segregation, which still exists. People might think that it doesn't, but if you live in a city like I do, and you look at the dynamics and the demographics, you realize that these things are still there, and especially even with race issues. I find that it's there, it's front and center, but nobody really wants to talk about it. It's like a taboo subject, and people are afraid that they're going to be grouped in a certain or they're going to be canceled out, as they say these days, and so people just avoid the subject. So I would say that well, personally, I think race issues is something that I think has been the toughest item to sort of kind of wrap my brain around. I mean, it's obvious it's there, but what I'm saying is that I wish that by now that we would have, gotten better. But it feels like with every passing day and the politics and the divisive politics that make matters even worse. So yeah, that is one of the things that I think has been um, front and center for me.
Front and center, yeah. Sylvie, welcome. Hi.
Thank you.
How did you meet Nini?
We met through Facebook. He's a messenger, as a matter of fact. He sent me a happy birthday message 2 years ago, which unfortunately I didn't respond, because he sent me that and talking about his amazing organization that he is the founder of, SIA Africa. But last year he did, so I replied. And we started chatting, and we connected, and we chatted once in a while, and we became friends. And I knew a little bit about his story and the fact that he wants to do so much for Africa. So when the book opportunity came, I immediately thought of him, and I said, I don't know if you're ready to do it, but I'm sure you would have a story. And he said, yeah. And here he is.
You were really supportive. Like, you were almost pushing Nini into my lap. You're like, he has a lot to tell. He's writing his own book. I really want you to talk to him. And I'm really grateful that you were willing to be transparent with your story, Nini. And Sylvie, your story is, and I know you're from Canada, and I said corporate America when I first came on, but really what I'm saying is corporate. And, I was in corporate for over 2 decades. And really what I'd like to ask you tonight, first of all, your story has so many different phases, right? So you excelled and then crashed, excelled and then crashed. That's the theme, excelled and then crashed. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but we almost are commended to work really hard in corporate America, in the corporate office, work 15 hours a day. What a good job. And someone who has perfection syndrome as well, would you say that I'm not saying that you brought it on yourself, but you've really come out the other side and are doing a lot better self-care. And so would you looking back, what would you do differently, or what do you recognize from your up and down, your peak and valley?
Well, there's a few things. And first I'm going to say, I like to say that I'm not perfectionist, but I have very high standards.
Yeah, perfectionist. That's a tough one.
Yeah, because I'm always able to do within the times. I'm not somebody who's going to work during the night to do something when it's due. Big and that. And there again, my thing is that it's not that I was working that many hours a day. I never worked more than 45 average hours a week, but it was the intensity with which I was doing it. And my private life as well. I was intense everywhere, and I wanted to do so much, and I wasn't taking care of myself. Like I was not doing any sport. I was not walking. So I was always in that go, go, go mode. And you're going to know when you read it, but it's basically because I had to prove myself, and I was driven by proving that I could do stuff. I didn't realize that at that time, you know.
Prove it to whom? Because maybe Nini felt this way as well. You know, a lot of us, we say that we learned the majority of our, you know, from our mentors, the majority of our habits, the majority of our standards. So who were you trying to prove to excel?
In a way to myself, because it comes when I was really young. My brother kept telling me that I was stupid. And so all my life, I tried to prove that I wasn't. And I know I'm not. I mean, I have good IQ, you know, tests and stuff. But it took me, and the fact that I never wanted to be dependent on anyone. So
Good one.
So I said that I'm going to do so that I can move the corporate ladder and earn enough so that I would never be dependent on anyone. So I do those two things that were driving me. And the third thing I think is that I've always wanted to do good work for the good reason. So, and in my case was, I would say corporate friends, the main part. But really what I was doing was like if it were my company. So that's why I put so much emotion in what I was doing.
Exactly. Yeah. Nini, did you have that as well, where you felt like you had to prove yourself to someone? And if so, who was that person? You're muted, sweetie.
Okay. So yes, I felt that way when I was in college, because, you know, my undergrad, I didn't do too well. And so when graduate school came around, I felt like I had to prove that I could do the work, but I just didn't do well undergrad because of other factors that were sort of kind of, you know, distracting, you know, immigration issues. And so, yes, so when I went to graduate school was when I had my green card, and I felt like I had to prove that I could actually do the work. And you know, having a green card was an important part of me deciding to go back to graduate school and wanting to make an impact.
And you're first generation here, correct?
Yes, yes.
Has your family, any of your family members followed you over to the US?
Yes. So my sister followed me here, and then later on, my parents also came.
I didn't realize your parents came over. That's amazing. And what industry are you working in?
So I work in the law enforcement industry, and I also run, you know, my organization, which is SI Africa, which for me is more of my passion work. So yes, you know, once again, when I take a look back and look at the journey and see where it all started and where we are now, it just also tells me, and not just my story, because I have friends who've also had similar stories. And it just tells you that if you follow the rules and you do what you need to do, you can definitely, you know, get things done the right way. So, yeah, so my day job was in the law enforcement community, and my passion work is the work I do for Africa.
Yeah, your story is, everybody's story was amazing, but I really learned a lot from your story. If I think you may not expect this for me to say this, but my biggest takeaway from your story, what I would say in one word, was respect. Like the level of respect for your parents, for your other influences, for trying to respect policy and procedures and the right thing to do. I mean, you really have done what you've done very respectfully.
Thank you. It's good to hear it coming from you, and that I haven't looked at it that way, but yes, you know, and once again, back to what I was trying to say, that it just taught me that if you follow the rules and you do what is needed to be done, it can be done. And it wasn't just my story. I mean, I have friends who they took different paths and different routes, but the result was pretty much the same, and they just followed the rules and did what they had to do. So yes.
Yeah. So Sylvie, take us through, your one of your darkest times and when you knew it was happening. So you're working and you have high expectations, and in the middle of your career, a few hiccups. Take us through one of the times so we can have a listener maybe connect and understand.
Yeah, I was asked in 2003 to go to Paris to work on a human resources information system to deploy PeopleSoft. And when I moved to Paris, I was supporting the project manager. Okay, I was responsible for one module, but I was not the project manager. And the goal was that maybe after a year and a half or two, I would take over. But it didn't happen this way. After 6 months, she left, and I was given the project. So it was like, okay, that's what you wanted to do, so you need to take it on. But it was a huge responsibility, okay? And on top of that, I started traveling, and almost every month I was crossing the Atlantic, okay? I went to Japan, and so for 3 years, I've been back and forth. I was managing that project. And I had other responsibility as well within the HR organization. And, I'm someone who, if I do something, I want to do it well. And I want to do what I think is required. And then at some point, I asked my boss, I said, I'm traveling so much, I might as well come back to Montreal, be with my family. And I said, travel back to Paris. So for another 3 years, I was crossing the Atlantic every month, on top of traveling to the US, except July and August because it's vacation in France. So you can say that for 6 years, I've been jet lagged, okay? Because, when you leave here at 8:30 at night, you land at 8:30, you take your car, you go do your week, and you come back on Saturday. There's no breaks, okay? So not doing exercise, not being a high performer, all of that, and the pressure I was putting on myself made it that I was seeing, I had a burnout in 93. So I knew I was getting there, and I was trying to do stuff so that I wouldn't, but I couldn't escape it. And it was, even my doctor, she said, I should have stopped you before. And so I ended up being a year off, totally. For the first 3 months, I would only wake up to go on the couch to watch TV. I could not even read a novel. I was so not there, so nothing. And it took a year before I went back to work. I went back 4 days a week. The company was amazing with me. They gave me a role that would suit how I was. I worked 4 days a week, but I would say it took probably 4 years before I could, 4 or 5 years before not more than that, 6 years before I really see that I can properly function and produce.
Not amazing.
Even today, I'm still somebody who does a lot. Okay, if you compare what I do with others, you're going to see that I still do a lot, but I probably do 60% of what, 40%, 50% of what I used to do. I was a machine.
The intensity.
Well, the intensity, the rush, the thing is that now I take more times to do my stuff. Right. I split, I put more time in doing stuff so that I have my breaks. I do a lot more to self-care. So in intensity, but also in workload, even though I do a lot, I probably do 50% of what I was doing.
Isn't that amazing? So, and you're healthier.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I mean, that's a priority now. My priority is my health, and that's why I'm accepting that I'm not performing that much, and I'm doing what I do. And not that I didn't, I loved what I did, but not the way I love what I do now. What I do now is really a passion.
Right.
And so it doesn't feel also as draining because it's more like a passion what I'm doing. Like, Nene says about his organization, the approach is not the same when you work out of a passion.
Right.
Versus having to perform and prove yourself, if I can say.
Nene, Nini, Nene, Nini. I call him everything. At least I call you. if you're prompting me to, I want to ask Nene, if you look, Nene, if you look back since you stepped into our country, what would you do differently? Would you do anything differently?
What would I do differently?
It's your country. Country.
Maybe I would have started my professional career a little bit early, because once again, it's one of the part of the immigrant story is that sometimes when you get to a place, you don't even know what you can or cannot do.
Yeah.
And so I realized that I started my career late in the game. And if I only knew, or if I was armed with information, I would have started earlier. So yeah, what I would have done differently would have been to start my career early.
We've got somebody in the house that knows you guys. Look at this comment.
Hey, my friend Diane, who's also in the room. So, yeah, if I can add, because you did ask me if I would do anything differently. Of course, I would do more exercise, etc. But at the same time, and Diane is one of the person who asked me that. Would you really do something different? And I said no, because I am who I am today, and I'm so happy to be who I am today.
Well, and what I'd rather rephrase that, because I get asked that question a lot too, right? And I think it's a standard question we all ask. I think how I like to rephrase it is, if you were holding somebody's hand through your experience, is there some way you would guide them a little bit differently, right?
Yes, of course. And that's one of the things that I want to do through my mentoring and coaching, is that I want people that might face a similar situation to not suffer as long and not suffer as much, and find their way, or way faster, so that they don't have to go down that deep, if I can say, because it's been a tough 8 years. I mean, I always kept positive, but it's been a very tough 8 years.
And you saw some of the flags that you weren't feeling that well, and you weren't maybe taking care of yourself as well as you would have liked to. You saw some of the red flags. Are you one of those that ignores them, or what are your thoughts? Because you did have red flags.
Yes, and I did not totally ignore them, because I went to see my doctor and I said, either you put me on antidepressant, or I won't be able to come to you. So I was saying it, but I don't think that I had realized how much I had stretched. Okay. And even though I had the antidepressant, and I was starting to try to adjust, and like going to Paris, I was going every 3 weeks type of thing. And I said, but for 1 week. And I said, okay, instead of that, go every 5 or 6 weeks, but leave on Wednesday, stay until the next Sunday, so that, I have more time to acclimate, if I can say. So I was trying to do a few things, but it wasn't enough. I really waited too much.
And but you did reach out, and that's what we would say to people out there. I worked, same deal. I worked in corporate for a really long time, and I was like the middleman. So corporate wellness, middle management. And I would try to get leadership to understand, the staff, and I would get staff to try to understand the leadership. And it's kind of talking out of both sides of your mouth. And there's a disconnect kind of with communication.
The reason, sorry, that I didn't go, it's because there's fears. Okay, there's fear, because I knew I wanted to go being on my own, but I was afraid of what could happen. So that's why I was resisting as well.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah. So Mr. NENE, see, there's another way I can say it. I'm in Africa, and I just met you, and you take my hand and you bring me to the United States of America. How would you get me through the process you went through more easily?
You're muted.
Let's unmute you there. Wait, I'm gonna make you start over. Okay, you were muted. Oh, we're both unmuting each other. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, that is a very interesting question. What I would do is that showing somebody the ropes, you can show people as much as you want. At the end of the day, it's up to them and what they really want to get out of stuff. So yes, part of what will happen will be, one thing that I would say to people is that there's no shortcuts to the way the system is set up here.
That's probably the best advice I've heard
Right.
right there.
Right. And so, yeah, one of the things I would say is that no shortcuts, just follow the rules and do what needs to be done.
And you bring up a good point, because you can lead a horse to water and you can't make him drink. So it has to be somebody's personal desire. We make time for the things we want. We really
Right.
do. And you have to do the work and not try to cut corners, because it's hard on change on any aspect. I mean, whether Sylvie's going to Paris and trying to figure out that country, or Japan, or anywhere, there are different rules with even state to state. I'm in Florida and lived in Colorado for a long time. There are different rules, and you drive down the road.
Right.
One school district, you can go 25, and the other, you got to go 15. So,
Right.
All right. So let's get ready to end this 30-minute episode here in a few minutes, because that's how fast it goes. Sylvie, we're going to come back to you. You have some really young listeners. Let's pretend there's some high school students, 18, 19 years old, that are getting ready to go to college with extremely high expectations, whether put on from their parents or whatever. Any advice from a mentor, you're mentoring them, that you would give them?
I don't know that the parents are going to like me, but I'm going to say they should follow their dreams. Right from
Mic drop. Where is my gavel? Yes, lady. Follow your dream.
There's too many dreams that have been shattered, and people get into their 40s not being fulfilled, not doing what they want to do, because of all kinds of dream shattering that happen when we're young. And I mean, and I'm not saying not to go to college. Don't get me wrong. It's important to have some education. But college shouldn't be the end. It shouldn't be. It should be the goal. College should just serve you to support you in doing and finding your way. And really get a coach when you're young, and get somebody like, I mean, I'm gonna say me, but just with the experience, so that I can open doors and possibility, and make you as a young person see that there's different stuff. And
shine the light on things that somebody else can't see. I mean, we all can see that in each other. Yeah. Ooh, that's really good. When we're 5 years old, I remember asking my son, my youngest son, he was young, we were in the hot tub, and I said, what do you want to be when you grow up? He rattled off just three industries. I remember two of them was like a fireman and a football player. I can't remember the other one. But the example being like, there's no fear. And there's no, like, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And then as we age.
Yeah.
All right.
Fear on us. We're not fearless when you're a kid. And that's the other thing. Right. I tell people, go back to be a kid again.
Oh, I know we had somebody on, I think Sunday night, Christine Herson said the same thing. Just be a kid again. Be fearless. That's so cool. All right, Nene, tell us, what would you give some advice, a teenager that's going to college, and what would you give them? You're their mentor.
I think, I would emphasize on doing what they feel like they want to do, what they enjoy doing, and not being forced or boxed into something that they're probably not passionate about. So there'll be more like, do what you think you really feel like doing.
Both of your stories in the book, The Fourfold Formula, you guys, we have a couple of specials going on. So go get your Kindle version until noon on Thursday, the 22nd. So for 48 hours, Kindle version, $1.99. Gives you an opportunity to carry around the book that you don't have to carry around the book. But you also want to get the book, because guess what? You probably shouldn't take your Kindle into the bubble bath, You can take your book. And the other thing we have going on is a buy one, give one. So go on to Amazon, buy yourself a book. Email me, Peggy@allthingswellness.com. Prove to me you bought a book. And I'm going to autograph one and send you one for free. And you can choose to give it away or be super selfish and keep both of them to yourself. But I know you're not going to do that. All right, you guys have been fantastic. I know you're going to be interviewed by many of our media partners coming up, and your stories and your brilliance you'll share with the world and affect many lives. And like we keep saying, you're going to change lives and save lives. I'm so happy I met you too. Thank you for blessing my life.
Me too.
Okay,
So
guys.
happy. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely, honey. I'll let you go.
Thank
Good night,
you.
everybody.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.